His name was Sarom. Kike and I went to the jail and we asked permission to see the student, which they immediately brought the student out to see us. And he was totally remorseful and totally repentant. He looked dreadful, just completely no life or spirit or hope in him. And we said, after talking with him, do you want to say anything? And so first of all, he dictated a letter to the friends at the school saying to the students he was very sorry for having done this, because really Richie was their friend of them all. And then he dictated a letter to me, to the parents. And in this letter he said that he didn't mean to kill Prue Richie, but he could not find the words to say anything about it. He didn't know what to say. At one stage he said, and I think this isn't in the letter, but he did say, Richie was my friend, he ate rice with me, which is very moving. And then he said he couldn't find words to say he did very wrong against their child, their Goan Richie, he called him. And he said, please forgive me, but I don't know the right words to say how terribly sorry I feel. And then I gave this letter 2 nights ago to Mr. and Mrs. Fernando, especially to the father, and it was amazing. He took the letter and he said, I don't blame the boy, I got into trouble at school myself sometime, or I understand when people get into trouble at school, they go a bit crazy in their thinking and they do things that they don't really mean at the time. Right from the beginning, I think the Fernando family have shown great courage and faith and understanding of a boy who was lost his leg when he was about 17 or 18, went to be a soldier at 16 and lost his parents during the genocide of Pol Pot. Extremely poor, illiterate, and nobody who really cares for him. In one way, Richie was probably one of the first people in his life who had cared for him. I felt great pity for him too. I think, in a way, right from the beginning, I understood about the students that this kind of society of which they've come out of it's been so deprived of things that are of the spirit, that are of what really makes a person a human being, and to use small arms and landmines to solve any problem is so common. It's really the tragedy of war among civilian peoples.
I am confident that God never forgets His people, our disabled brothers and sisters. And I am glad that God has been using me to make sure that our brothers and sisters know this fact. I am convinced that this is my vocation and mission.
Some of the Cambodians on the team, Sokeng and Sister Art, and then John Marie and I got together and planned a ceremony. And the plan was to take, as the body of Richie was being laid in the grave in the Philippines, we would take the precious blood of Richie and carry it to the place of memorial. So we began at the back end of the school. We walked through the dark school, right through all the anvils and the pieces of machinery with lighted candles, up to the place on the floor where he had died. And you can see clearly the mark of the grenade. And there, and a little, like a little altar really, we'd put a beautiful hand weaving that came from the refugee camps, and a crucifix that Jupp had brought back from Rwanda, from the peace centre in Rwanda where Jesuits and others were killed in the Rwandan massacre. So we came to that place and had a little ceremony, and then Father John Marie took up the precious blood in a typical Cambodian urn. And then we went around the buildings. In traditional Cambodian style, you walk around the buildings 3 times, blessing them. So people came carrying flowers and incense, and we walked around. There were the people hobbling on their crutches, and you could hear the noise of clomp, clomp, clomp through the school as we went, the wheelchairs coming, and then many other people, the village people and the children came. And then we walked all the way round to the monument, this little hill where the Bayon was. It's beautiful. It's a very strong symbol in Cambodia, as it is in other parts of India and Asia. And it says mercy, one face. The second face says loving kindness. The third face says it's like neutrality or impartiality or universality. And then the fourth one says the opposite to jealousy, rejoicing when somebody else has something good. Andre read the Gospel, the Beatitudes, and on the journey we'd been singing, no greater love hath he than he who laid down his life for his friends. I found myself all the time going back to this little memorial and putting flowers or just walking around and thinking and praying and wondering about the future. Many of the disabled people of Cambodia, especially the ones that have been at Banteay Preab, where Richie was, emerge after incredible trauma, emerge as very resilient, courageous members of society who are trying to help, to do something, even though they're very poor, even though they've got very little for themselves. And I think this was just exemplified as they all gathered around together to build the coffins for Richie's body to come back here to Phnom Penh. War isn't just 4 years of two sides fighting one another, it's the aftermath and the consequences it has in people's lives for more than a generation. And to counteract that, you need people in society who are going to model other kinds of ways of being. And that's why it's so important in Cambodia for both Buddhism, the traditional religion, to really take root again and people learn about peace and loving kindness. But also that the people who come as Christians don't come as aggressive proselytizers as some of the fundamentalist religions do, but come as people of love, trying to share the love of Jesus, the compassion of Jesus in that society. And that, I think, is the only thing that's going to end up changing people's hearts.